Welcome back to another lesson, and in this lesson we're going to talk about stride piano, specifically what it is and how to play it. I can answer the first question fairly easily just by playing out an example. So let me do that. So stride piano is a style that is, I think, most associated with the composer Scott Joplin. And it's also associated with these old Western kind of movies where you have someone playing a piano in the bar, and they'll usually be playing this sort of style. What I'd like to do in this video is give you some ideas on what to do with the left hand and the right hand and how to combine them together to make a convincing sounding sort of stride piano, to play stride piano convincingly. So let's get started, and I'll get started with the left hand. And the secret to stride piano is really making these strides. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm jumping, or you're continuously jumping between playing a bass note and a chord in the left hand. So let me give you an example. Here's a C chord, a C major chord. It's one of the inversions. So it's a G, a C, and an E. Now this C chord, here's the same chord in the root position. The C chord has the first, third, and fifth degrees of the scale that make it up. And when you are going to play your stride piano, you're going to play the root as a bass, and then the chord. And then the fifth as a bass, and then the chord. And then again, the root, chord, fifth, chord. You're going to play the bass notes in an octave. So not just a C, but two Cs. So root, chord, fifth, chord, root, chord, fifth, chord, root, chord. Now, this is technically challenging. So if you're a beginner, you're going to have a hard time. That's true. If you practice it slowly, I do believe that you will get the hang of it. But give yourself time and practice slowly with the metronome, as with all things. Let me give you another example. Here's a D chord, a D major chord, and it's made out of the root, third, and fifth. So playing it in stride would mean something like this. Root, chord, fifth, chord, D, chord, A, chord, D, chord, A, chord. This is true even if you're using more complicated chords like a dominant. So here's a D dominant seventh, or just a D seventh. And again, the bass notes are still the root and the fifth, a D and an A. So and so forth. If you're finding it a bit difficult to jump around with the bass chord, bass chord, bass chord, you can simplify things in two ways. First of all, you can keep the same, just the root. So don't jump around with the bass notes on the left hand. Just use the same root, just use the root throughout. So root, chord, root, chord, root, chord. That's one simplification. Another thing that you can do is you can say, and I think this works best with chords in the root form. Let's say take a chord like a C chord, and what you can do is you can simply use one finger to play the root and then the upper two notes, and then use your pinky to play the fifth and the upper two notes. So root, up, fifth, up, root, up, fifth. So this is kind of a poor man's stride piano. It's still effective. So it still has this stride sound. It's just not as, I think, fully blown as the full one when you actually jump around. Okay, now I would also like to mention that the types of chords associated with stride piano are mostly triads. So they're either like something like a C, and you have dominant chords as well. So you'll see many times seventh chords. So use, for example, a C7 chord. And every now and then you'll see a sixth chord, so something like a C6 or a D6 or an F6, of course. Any of these can be with a sixth. So you'll have the first, third, fifth, and sixth degrees of the chord. And occasionally you might see a ninth chord. So an example, here's a D9 chord. So I have the first, third, fifth, seventh, and ninth degrees. D, F sharp, A, C, and E. Of course, I can't really play this chord with my hand, with just one hand. So what I do is I just play the topmost four notes, and the bass note will be taken care of by my stride playing. So first chord, fifth chord, first chord, fifth chord. What about the right hand? So there are no rules for the right hand. Really, your right hand is supposed to play the melody or the composition or whatever it is that makes your song unique. And there are no hard rules for making up stride piano melodies. There are some motifs though. Stride piano melodies use a lot of arpeggiation. So let's say I'm playing a C chord in my left hand. I can actually get away with a simple arpeggiation in my right hand. And you see I'm also playing lots of these big chords that are just C triads with some notes doubled. So you really have to know your triads and how to invert them and so forth. Another thing that is featured a lot are tremolos. So it might land on a chord like a C and then just alternate between two notes in the chord. If you're more advanced, what you'd end up doing is might even do a tremolo of an entire chord. So you see what I'm doing in the right hand is I'm alternating between a chord, an E, G, and C, and a note. Really what I'm playing is a C major chord, but I'm alternating like this. And this requires a fair amount of technique and also musculature in the hand. The style also has many leading notes, not exactly grace notes, but what I mean by leading notes are if you're going to a note like G, you might precede it by a note a semitone below it. Alright, so I'm just arpeggiating a C here, which is just the notes C, E, G, and C. But some of the notes I'm also playing a leading note into them. And of course with a chord in the left hand. So that's it. I hope you've learned something interesting, and I hope to see you next time.